So I think it's about time that we spoke about FIFA 21. Let's jump into it. Okay, so you are probably in two camps right now. You are a FIFA 21 FIFA devotee. You will pick up the game every single year on day one, regardless as if the game is any good or not. Just what we do. Or you're in camp number two, which is you're probably a long-standing fan, but you've come to realise that the game iterations have not been the greatest. You're a little bit more on the fence and you're happy to wait. So what I have tried to do is play the game on EA Play, get some experience of playing the game, and kind of give a well-rounded preview review of FIFA 21. Shut up.
Substitution then. Let's see how it affects the match. Oh, nice ball. Oh, burying them beneath an avalanche of goals. No let up here.
So I'll break this down into kind of discussions about game modes and kind of the game in general. Then we'll actually jump into some gameplay. So this is going to be played on the PS4 Pro, but I've also played this on the Xbox as well. So kind of looking at both of them, the only main difference I would say is just graphical performance between the consoles. So straight off the bat, just to make this clear as day, FIFA 21 is definitely better than this, FIFA 20, which, to be completely honest, wasn't that difficult. FIFA 20 has possibly been my least favourite FIFA in terms of gameplay and just, I don't know, lack of desire to actually want to play the game. So on a positive note, I do feel as though FIFA 21 in terms of gameplay and some of the modes that are in it are definitely better than last year's game. Does that mean you should go out and buy it though? Not just yet. Now, one of the reasons I say potentially to hold off on FIFA 21 is we don't actually know how this game performs on next-gen consoles. Obviously, EA have been so nice, the multi-billion-dollar company have been so nice to say that this is going to have cross-platform compatibility with no cost to the user. The only difficulty with that is you might buy FIFA 21 on PS4, but we don't actually know what it'll be like on PS5. So I kind of want to wait to see what it's like on PS5 before actually making a purchase decision. Which is exactly what EA don't want people to tell. And that is exactly what EA don't want. But I'm going to use the trial on the PS5, then maybe decide if I'm going to buy it or not. So with the game modes, there have been a few developments, there have been a few updates. Now, I'll go in terms of kind of, I don't know, least importance and least changes kind of go up. So in terms of something that was introduced in FIFA 20, which was Volta, was it FIFA 20 that came in? Yeah. Volta has had a few updates, notably the fact that you can now actually play this with your friends on multiplayer online. Why that wasn't involved in FIFA 20 is beyond every single player I've ever known, but alas, it is in FIFA 21. They've then added a few kind of stadiums and there is like a 2 or 3 hour campaign. But realistically, I don't feel like after the first kind of few weeks, or maybe when your friends are around and you're not really wanting a hardcore game of FIFA, that mode is probably not going to be touched. So the next game mode is one that I personally don't play too much, but I know is a fan favourite of YouTubers and the community, which is Pro Clubs. Pro Clubs has once again had hardly any updates to it. FIFA have done a astounding job of not listening to the community on Pro Clubs, and one of the big drawbacks and why I say potentially to wait is you can't transfer your data from a PS4 to a PS5 or an Xbox One to a Series X or S on Pro Clubs. You can on Career Mode and on Ultimate Team, obviously. But yeah, not on Pro Clubs. So pretty disappointing. If you are a big fan of Pro Clubs, you'll be playing for a month if you've got a pre-order, and then voila, disappeared. That then brings us on to career mode. Now, career mode for me is the bread and butter of actually why I've purchased FIFA before in the past. It is what has kept me playing the game all these years, and just seeing the poor thing being beaten to death by EA has again led me to I didn't actually buy FIFA 20, I got that included with the PS4 Pro, so I didn't actually buy FIFA 20 because the career mode had just been so abysmally left, I didn't really want to buy the game. Career mode this year has had a few updates and they are really quite minor. You can now jump into a game after you're simming it, which I guess is quite good, but not game changing. Another feature as well, you can now take control of more players in terms of the training, so it's not just that 5 simulate all, just trying to get them up as much as possible. You can actually now play kind of the tutorial kind of skill games, but I can imagine potentially after time you probably will just sim them again. So I think everyone is kind of looking for a bit more Football Manager style career mode, and hopefully maybe when they go away from the Frostbite engine or just with next gen, maybe FIFA 22, we might see that level of depth come into the game, but again, not in this year's game. Apart from that, career mode does look just pretty similar to the past 20 years. So no major changes there, and that is obviously because of the big game and the big token of this, which actually should just be called Foot 21. So the big change is that they've made it purple. Bundesliga. Get it? We've got Bonjour FC on the Xbox, Bundesliga on the PlayStation. He's come up with a clever Premier League name. Hit me up on the comments below if you can think of a decent Ultimate Team name for a Premier League team with Ben in the name. So that leaves us on to this, which is, as I say, Foot 21, which is basically where EA are putting their money, their resources, and this is probably the game mode that will succumb to, unless you are dedicated, hardcore, and really hate foot. In terms of FIFA Ultimate Team this year, there have been some updates compared to last year. As I say, FIFA 20 is probably my least played FIFA, so coming into this, I probably am the worst person to discuss the upgrade. So Foot 21, so this is probably the main reason that I would say people are now buying FIFA. They have updated some elements of this. You now have kind of more customization in regards to your stadium, and you can update that, and you can still purchase other stadiums if you want the San Siro or Spurs' stadium. You can totally do that. You can still change it. And I would say a lot of these are more aesthetic features more than actual substance, but there are improvements which are quite nice. In terms of the game modes inside FIFA Ultimate Team, they've fundamentally not changed. You've still got your squad battles, division rivals, and foot champions. They are still the core of this game. Actually, if you look at it, this is probably why I don't think there's been that many changes to this game apart from the aesthetics. In terms of how it looks very nice, but the actual kind of things that you are doing are almost exactly the same. Other things that I think EA are doing, they are very much advertising kind of news comes on first and before play, like play's in the middle. Like play isn't the first thing, it's news and updates and wanting you to buy packs. You also have like more marketing and things like that. It's almost like an infomercial actually playing on FIFA Ultimate Team. But as I say, the actual kind of updates I think do bring an element of improvements to FIFA Ultimate Team, and you can see here I've after slogging it out, not paying any more money, I've got some okay players. But less about the modes and let's talk gameplay. So I'll load up a match and let's chat about how this game actually plays. Can I lob him? I can't lob him. So when it comes to this year's FIFA, on FIFA 21, this is where I would say actually the most improvements have been made, and they are just the gameplay. Graphically, on a PS4 Pro, I know we're going to see improvements on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, but this is the ceiling, I think, of the Frostbite engine. It looks pretty much identical to FIFA 20 and FIFA 19, just some slight improvements here or there, but fundamentally, I think this is what you're getting out of this hardware. So don't expect any changes from a graphics perspective, but on the actual pitch, I think things are better. Now, one of the main improvements that I think I've seen with this year's FIFA is kind of mainly down to the close control and kind of actual skill ability of the players. I feel it is a little bit more realistic that you actually can hold the ball just that little bit better than in previous games, especially last year, which was slow and I just felt very, very clunky in terms of its ability to play. One thing I've noticed during gameplay is, for some strange reason, depending on obviously the team you're playing, but I find the opportunities definitely come still in the first half, and then the second half it's kind of like the AI go up a level because you're either beating them or they just decided to actually turn up. So for example, Mbappe, I should have really scored there if I wasn't talking. The ability to actually get through defence, I think, with especially quick players is still slightly OP. Especially players like Mbappe and Neymar, they do just run through defences quite quickly. In fairness, in real life, they do. They are very, very quick players, and there is an element of realistic, gameplay when it comes to that. But defending is still very, very difficult, especially against those quick players. Passing definitely feels a little bit more connected, and I feel like you are able to pass the ball quicker, and your players are able to control it a lot better as well. So one thing that's definitely has improved is the player's ability off the ball to actually make decent runs. One of the things that really just infuriated me when you look back at previous versions of FIFA is just the kind of seemingly lack of ability for your players to run forward. This year I definitely feel there have been improvements in the AI's want and desire to move forward, allowing obviously to create space, but also just more opportunities for through balls and the likes. Pretty bad pass. Overall, that kind of leads to just a bit more enjoyable gameplay. It doesn't feel like you're bogged down in a really just nailed down 0-0 or maybe just a 1 or 2-0 victory. Goals are definitely going to be scored in FIFA 21, which, especially at the moment with kind of Man United and Liverpool recently, does show that it does happen. Not every match is 2 or 1-0. It has the opportunity to turn into a bit more of a goal fest. Trying to do a video and play FIFA is stupid beyond recognition. This is really tough. When it comes to defending, well, I've not actually had that much trouble. I do feel as though, depending obviously on the skill level of the computer, that defending has become a bit easier this year. I think some reviewers have said it's a bit more of a challenge, but I think when you offset it with the fact that you are actually able to attack this year, defending has become a little bit easier. One thing that has amazed me when it comes down to kind of the skill levels of players is it does seem as though, yes, Liverpool are a very, very good club, but they very much skew to some of the other players. When you go through kind of Ultimate Team and you actually see some of the ratings of really good players, they just kind of don't make any sense. And I don't feel as though that's a true representation maybe of the players, but probably EA's alliance to certain clubs. I'm definitely not sour about Liverpool being very well rated. Well, that was a nice little move there. But as I mentioned, kind of just at the beginning of the gameplay, the biggest thing for me that I've really seen is just that kind of close control and little moves like that from Neymar that really kind of help separate the player and the attacker. Just like that. When it comes to the goalkeepers though, that is one thing that has kind of got me a little bit worried is they're not very good. Regardless of the goalkeeper that you are against, I've played a couple of Ultimate Team matches in squad battles, and one match I actually won 8-0 from about 12 shots on target. That for me just shows that the goalkeepers are just not that intelligent this year, which is, I don't know, probably the 13th year in a row that we've been saying that about a FIFA game. Maybe we just need to accept that goalkeepers are just never going to be very good in an EA title. Okay, so my overall thoughts of FIFA 21 from the EA trial and like a preview. Definitely better than last year's game. It's more enjoyable as an actual football simulator. I would happily say that this is the better version of FIFA 20 and 19. This is the best we've seen in a couple of years. Overall, is it a missed opportunity? Well, yes, they've actually started to get the gameplay to be a little bit better. It's a little bit more fluid and fun to play, but ultimately, what is going to keep you coming to this game? Career mode really isn't the mode that it should be, and that for me is one of the single player versions of this game that really is it should be keeping you coming to this game every week, but it's just not. FIFA Ultimate Team, you are going to have to put money into it to be any decent level of player, unless you put hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours into it. The only way that you're going to make a really great team is by paying your way into it. When this game already costs £50 to £70 to then probably have to put maybe that in again to really get those top tier kind of players, I just think it's pretty disappointing that you have to spend £150 on a game to then basically have to start all over again next year. So when it comes down to purchasing FIFA 21, I would probably wait. Unless you have already made up your mind you're going to buy this on day one, I would probably say to wait maybe until January, February, when we typically see this go on sale, and we've then got the benefit of it being on next-gen consoles, and we can really see what Frostbite can do. I'm happy to say that the gameplay is better, but I personally, I'm going to give this a little while to see what happens with the price and maybe pick this up later in the year. I hope you enjoyed this preview, and if you did, you can always subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you think of FIFA 21, and we'll see you in another video soon. Bye for now.